Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer. Chris, how's it going today?
I'm doing great, Jason. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Yeah, it's good to see
Excellent.
you. Yeah, it's been
Excellent to
been a
hear.
while since we talked.
Yeah.
Full week here, but it's really good to see you. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, it's been a good week, Jason. It's that time of year when the leaves are going to start coming out again, starting to warm up here in Texas. It's great. It always changes my mood because I'm a simple, very basic, shallow man, and the weather makes me feel happy.
Good, good. Well, we were dealing with tornadoes the other day, so
Oh,
the spring is here.
it's death.
You know what's crazy is I was looking online at news before the storm came in a
Yeah.
couple days ago,
Yeah.
and I'm on the New York Times website, and it says 100 plus mile per hour winds expected in Oklahoma. And I'm looking at it, and we made the national news before the storm rolled in a few hours later, and I said,
Oh,
"Oh man, we're screwed."
yeah.
I'm looking at the
That's
national
not.
news, and we're on the national news before the storm even came in.
Oh, are you
Uh,
okay? Everything,
yeah,
everything,
yeah,
everything
everything
good?
in
Okay.
my area was fine. So
Well,
it was
that's good.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, it was weird. It wasn't that bad where I'm at. So
Tornado Alley. That's what they
yep,
call it, right?
yep,
Yeah.
yep. What
Yeah.
do they call your part of Texas? Just Texas
Just the
Hill
nice
Country
part.
or no?
Yeah. Piney
No,
Woods, technically, is what they call it.
Piney
Piney Woods,
Woods.
as you can see behind me, 75-foot trees. Just, just God's
Yeah, you
country.
like getting after those trees, don't you?
Yeah. I cut them down
Yeah, you cut one
sometimes.
down the other day. Sent me a
Yeah.
video. Yeah,
Very manly, like a man.
yeah, that was hot. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I do. I grab a chainsaw sometimes and I'm like, you know what?
You feel a little inadequate, a little,
Yeah.
just a little
When I,
like you're not handling life because you work on a little keyboard all day.
yeah.
You know, you're not using your real hand. You know, your hands in a
Yeah.
real
I
way. You
need,
had
I
to go
need,
do something
I need to
outside.
go do
Is it
something.
is
Yeah.
that why you cut down the tree?
Yeah. And it was
Well,
dead
hold on. I heard
as
what you
well.
paid. I heard what you paid those guys, those
Yeah.
men
Yeah.
who came to
Real
your
men
property.
that
Yeah, real
use
men
tools.
and tools
Right.
and cut up all the trees and hauled
Yeah.
them off once you got them to the ground.
Uh
I
huh.
heard what you paid them,
Yeah.
and you told me, but I also heard it from them. You set a record in their industry. You are their hero. You paid so much for that service. It was ridiculous. My question to you
Yeah.
is, and I didn't ask you the other day, but I'm asking you here,
Yeah.
why did you not just pay them to also do the 5 minute thing of cutting down the tree as well?
It's,
Is
I
it because
have,
you have problems? Is it because you feel like you need to do something outside? What's going on?
I was working outside on a
Because that's risky
Saturday.
business. Why'd you do that?
It
Why'd you take
is.
that
It
risk?
was really dangerous.
75-foot trees.
Yeah. I was working outside and the tree's been dead for a while. And I thought, you know what? I got a big daddy chainsaw and I'm going to whip that thing out and just
Oh,
try it. And it went okay. There's a lot that goes into what's called felling a tree, to fell a tree. And I actually cut my angle too deep. And so I had to tie down the tree and pull it as I cut because I was worried it was going to fall on my shop at the same time. So it ended up being, I should have left it to the professionals at the end.
yeah, you really should have, especially given. I mean, honestly, don't you think what you paid them
Yeah.
for them to also cut down the tree would it have added like 3% or something,
Yeah. It
or
would have,
maybe
yeah.
nothing?
Yeah. Yeah. He would have done it. He would have grabbed the tool and done it properly in about a quarter of the time, I'm sure. But
Yeah. Well, next
you don't
time, just
learn.
to stay safe, let's stick to what you know, and
Yeah.
what you know is Google Ads. So why don't you
Google
tell us
ads.
about Optio, and then we're going to talk about a few new features inside of Google Ads that are very
Mm.
cool. That's what we're talking
Hmm.
about today. But Chris, why don't you tell us about Optio, and then we'll get into the show.
Yeah, guys, I want to tell you about a feature that's been around. I've told you about new features in Optio. Let's take a break here. Let's go back to some of the basic things that I don't mention often. Did you know that Optio has what they call a scorecard? And this is sometimes just an absolute lifesaver because sometimes you got a client who just wants an update, not a report. They just kind of want to know where things are at. Or you have somebody you're trying to sell Google Ads service to, and you want to let them know kind of how their account is performing. This Optio scorecard is basically a snapshot to help you more easily understand based on percentage scores. So it looks at different areas that would need attention, from conversion tracking to search term coverage to, a budget limitation to quality score. I mean, these kind of things can be critical, and it helps kind of just just cut through all the confusing lingo that you might typically throw out and just give the clients a numerical number to just see how their account is doing. And sometimes that's all they need. They just want to know, am I doing better than I was last year? And this is a great way to just cut through it and give them a solid information month by month, and give them the information that they need. This is a wonderful tool, and it's one of the many that is attached to the tool belt that is opteo.com/PSP, which you can try for 2 months for free. That's 8 weeks at Opteo. That's opteo.com/PSP to get a 8-week, 2-month free trial. Use the little chat box and tell them you heard about it right here from Chris on the Paid Search Podcast.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So yeah, we've got some new features inside of Google Ads, and Chris, how do you hear about new features? For me, like I check the official Google Ads blog every now and then a lot of it is just using the platform, and I'll be in there trying to do something else, and then I'll go, oh wow, that's new, and I'll kind of explore what that is. How do you find yourself finding out about new features?
Just like you said, I stumble upon them. I stumble upon something last week that I think I showed you last week that we can bring up today. I don't think it's in the notes, but the ability to, oh yeah, it is in the notes. It's right there. So the thing I talked about last week, and sometimes people just reach out to me and say, hey, have you seen this?
Yeah.
You know, they just let me know because they're like, hey, you have a podcast, maybe you can mention this on their podcast. So sometimes people just keep me updated, which I appreciate, which is wonderful.
Yeah, likewise. So this first new feature inside of Google Ads, the first couple are assets, what used to be called ad extensions, but they're in the ad area, ads and assets. Yep. And then these two are assets, and they are the business logo and the business name. And they're kind of as simple as they sound here. The business logo, I believe it's only on mobile right now. Basically, next to your display URL, you can put in a little like circle logo there. Not the biggest deal in the world, Chris, but when Google's offering a new option there, especially like something that's a display image kind of thing, I think it's worth doing. And I think it'll be rewarded by the system. And I think there's a reason they're offering it, because they probably tested it and think it raises click-through rate. So have you seen that, and do you like it?
Yeah, I have seen it. I mean, honestly, anytime there's a new feature, it takes time, to roll it out with all the different accounts. But yeah, I think it's desperately needed, because when you're adding image assets, what's one of the first things you start to grab? The logo. You grab the image that has the company name and the logo, and you always get it spit back as disapproved. And that's always the case. So I think this is something that is highly needed in the Google Ads interface, because people really want to add their logo. That logo is just the branding kind of thing, and it looks great when it shows their text ad there with the logo and the company name beside it. I mean, it looks sharp. I've seen it in Google in the wild before, and it looks really great. It actually kind of catches your eye, because you're like, what is this? It looks kind of like it's a shopping ad, a local listing ad, and a text ad all in one. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I think it works. And one thing with advertisers is we're focused on Google Ads, but a lot of these advertisers are also spending a lot of money trying to build their brand, and they're running ads on local TV and all sorts of things. So I like the idea of being able to continue to grow the brand and also benefit from that brand, where like people see the logo, it looks familiar on some level. When you're spending money on Google Ads, and not only like helping that side, but also helping the Google Ads side by, okay, if a business is going to go out there and grow a reputation in a community for 40, 50 years and do all that brand advertising, I like the idea of them being able to go into performance advertising on search, where they're trying to get direct sales and direct leads from search keywords, but also being able to benefit from all the historical brand stuff that they've built up. And same thing with the business name, shows up on mobile right now, is my understanding. I don't think it shows up on desktop, but I think it's just mobile, and it's right next to the logo and right above the display URL. So it's another chance to get in front of someone with your brand, with your name, and it's pretty simple to do. So I think these are kind of no-brainers to add into your account.
Yeah. It's I think it's a good move, simple, and the assets. It seems like Google's really investing into the whole asset thing. So
Yeah,
it's
big time.
probably going to grow because when you think of it instead of extensions, you think of it as an asset that's added to the ad. Suddenly now the tone seems to have changed.
And you can add it at the account level, so you can just do it one time, and
Yeah.
it can apply to all your campaigns under or inside of the account. So that's the two new assets. And then there's some new columns. So why don't you tell us about these columns, Chris, and what they're kind of grouped as?
Yeah. So there's a little section on wherever you're looking in Google Ads. If you're looking at the ad group level, the campaign level, the keyword level, there's going to be a section that says modify columns. You can modify your columns and add new columns to the data that shows on the screen. So when you're viewing that modified columns, there is a long list of different things that you can add. And there's a whole new category that Google's added, and it's called setup. So,
And Chris, let me break in. These are on the campaign and ad group level. That's where you can add these setup columns.
Not the keyword. Okay, got it. Yeah. So these new setup columns are, I don't know. I think setup is a good name because it's kind of hard to gauge them in any other way other than just basic informational data about the campaign itself. It's not going to anything about clicks or anything like that. It's things like number of eligible ads, number of disapproved ads, number of eligible keywords, number of disapproved keywords. So you can see that this is a kind of a metadata type of information. It's not data about the keywords. It's about how many keywords you have and how many of those are eligible and how many are disapproved. And then it even gets into things like this number of eligible responsive search ads, the number of eligible ad groups total, and there's several others. But one of the things that I think is, just to deviate here, what I think is useful on these overall is probably more of a one-time view. I don't think that I would be using these on a day-to-day basis. I don't know about you, Jason.
Well, I think that goes with the name of this group of columns, the setup columns.
Right.
I mean, you're setting up once. So I think it's something you don't need to have these columns added like all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're a business owner and you're reviewing your Google Ads account, like doing an annual review, and you just want to see where things stand, it's good to get this kind of data. If you're new to a Google Ads account, this will kind of give you an overview. There's also ad strength details, which is a really cool column, where it will, and maybe that's one where you could keep it up at all times, because if the ad strength changes, you'll be able to catch that. But it'll show you how many ads are pending, whether you have no ads, poor ads, average ads, good ads, or excellent ads, and how many of them. There's also, it shows you the number of site links and then the number of eligible images. So what I really like about this, Chris, is, do you remember I think it's at the keyword level, or maybe it's at I think it's at the ad group level. There's a column in there that says like number of active, or it says like active bid adjustments. And then in that column, it'll tell you like device bid adjustment is active, audience bid adjustment, income, whatever.
Yeah.
That was really cool because it shows you, it's like an X-ray or an MRI. It shows you what's inside of this ad group. And in this case, ad group or campaign with these setup columns, what's inside of these campaigns, not just the data. So when we look at the interface, and we look at that campaign level page, we're used to thinking about performance. And then when people like you and I see the performance, that cues like, okay, loss due to ad rank is 90%. That cues like, oh, maybe we're underbidding. And then so we go look at the bids, but we have to kind of think through it and infer from it. What I like about these columns is at the campaign level, they'll just do an X-ray of your campaign and point out some spots you may want to go look at if any of this stuff looks off. Like, perfect example, you get into a new Google Ads account, $1,000 a month budget, and you see number of eligible keywords at the campaign level, 2,000. That's a cue like, oh, this is a crazy mixed up unorganized account that's way too complex, or campaign that's way too complex, that's going to kind of be the framing that I'm going to go into when I look at the data. It kind of sets a table. So can you appreciate those the way those columns can work for us?
Yeah, and when you lay it out like that, it seems like a good way to possibly do this is I wouldn't have this on my daily rotation of columns that I use every day, but where I think I would use it is possibly a set of columns that are designed specifically for an audit. Because you can have custom columns and change between one set of columns and another set of columns just by changing your column layout. I would say that this could be something that you might have on an audit collection of columns. That's I don't think I'd keep it on my everyday columns, but it's kind of useful. When I'm going into account for the first time, boom, I pull these up. I can quickly glance, just like you said, and just kind of get an idea without having to dig into stuff, click by click by click.
Yeah, and it can be a new audit. You get into a new account and you pull up that set of columns called audit. It can also be if you have a change in performance to the negative, and like the number of leads just goes down dramatically, or the cost per conversion is up way high, or all of a sudden you can't spend the full budget and the advertiser is asking, what's going on. This is a good way to kind of just pull out the audit group of columns, look at the setup columns, and see if anything stands out, like a bunch of poor ads, or or a campaign with zero excellent ads.
Yeah.
Or if you're not using images, or if all of a sudden your ads got disapproved, most of them, and you didn't realize it, something like that. So that's kind of how we'll be using it. And they threw a lot on us there. Like, they threw all these columns out at once. So
Yeah.
It was cool to see that.
That's one thing I'm never going to complain about. More data, more columns. And there's I don't know if we've ever mentioned it on the show, but there are custom columns that you can create as well. That if you want your own kind of column, that's something you can do. But yeah, it's interesting. I appreciate the effort to make our lives that much easier.
Yeah, I think a lot with when stuff comes up that's new with Google Ads, even if it doesn't look like you'll be using it a lot, like number of eligible site links that are upgraded site links, it's like I don't see myself using that a ton. You find yourself finding uses for the different tools they provide over time.
Sure.
And so it's good to be aware of them. And I really think that ad strength details column, that's kind of my column. That I think is going to be very, very useful, because as we've talked about, like, having excellent responsive ads is very important these days to be able to get the most impressions and leads possible, and utilize the system as best as you can. And that just gives you a quick overview of how many you have. So, Chris, we have a very, very cool new feature that we're going to talk about in a minute. A lot of people have been asking for. Nobody in the world has discovered it except us.
Yeah.
And us meaning you.
I haven't heard
brought
about it
this
anywhere.
to the table. Anywhere.
Yeah.
This is an exclusive. We're going to talk about it right up. We're going to take a quick break. Let's get into it right after the break. Yeah, we'll reset things here.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to remind you about our sponsor, optio.com/PSP. Give those people a quick chat and let them know that you heard about it on the show. Your communication to our sponsors helps them know that it's worth investing into the show, and that keeps us going. Jason's paycheck, it grows every year, and we have to keep him satisfied. If you want to keep him here, he's a constant on the show, and if he's not here, then the show can't continue. So I appreciate you guys reaching out to Optio. Try a 2-month free trial. Keep Jason happy. Optio.com/PSP.
Keep my name out of your mouth. So, Chris, you found out about this the other day.
Yeah.
You brought it to my attention. I appreciate that. It's a very cool thing. So why don't you just tell everyone what you found? Yeah.
So first, let's go through a little hiking trip, okay? Because you're going to go to an area that you probably don't go to very often. You're going to go to the All Campaigns button. Okay, so this is up at the very top of the screen. Click on all campaigns. Make sure you're not inside of any particular campaign. Then do something you don't do very often. You're going to go to the settings. Now, what it's going to immediately do is drop you off into the campaign settings. That's not where you want to be. There's another section, which was actually added a few years ago, called account settings. This is newer in Google Ads, and this is where you can change your account name. You can do some different things around call reporting and tracking URL, but look at the very bottom of your campaign settings screen. There will be something called negative keywords. And negative keywords within itself is something very, very common, not new at all. But what's interesting here is this is an account level negative keyword tool. Now, this is different from a shared negative keyword list. Shared negative keyword lists have to be applied to different campaigns, and they are applied specifically to search campaigns. You can apply them to specifically search campaigns. I don't know if you can apply them to shopping, but you certainly cannot apply them to Performance Max. Does not work. That is where this is different. That's why this is extremely unique and 100% a new feature that I have not seen otherwhere. I stumbled upon this myself. Basically, the news is this. The fact is you can add negative keywords to this list, and across the entire account, from search to shopping to Performance Max, it will apply these negative keywords, up to 1,000 of them, to all of those campaign types. Whether they're running or not running, it's going to apply them. This is not something that is anywhere in the account. If you created a shared negative keyword list, you have to go in and apply those manually. And like I said, you cannot apply those to Performance Max. So I think above all things, it's really interesting that you can do this to Performance Max. Jason, how are you thinking about using this new tool?
I'm definitely going to use it, and I don't think for regular search campaigns, I'm not going to be using it because when I have a list of what I would call universal negative keywords that apply to all campaigns inside the account, I'm just used to creating a negative keyword list, applying that universal list to all the campaigns, and then adding to it. Also, it's probably easier to do that as you are maneuvering through the account, adding negative keywords in real time. But the big deal here is the Performance Max. That's the big deal. And being able to add negative keywords at the Performance Max level via the account level that applies to the all Performance Max campaigns inside your account, that's big. And but I've got to think through how I want to use these for Performance Max. But it definitely is cool that we now have the option, because that is definitely one feature of Performance Max campaigns that was definitely missing. Performance Max brought on a ton of new, like, cool, different kinds of targeting and just a whole different feel to Google Ads. But because some Performance Max can still apply to search campaigns, I'm sure in different industries it's varies how much applies to search. I want those negative keywords, because you always want the ability to add negative keywords. So I think probably one use will be, like, if I'm doing Performance Max, say for an attorney, and there's one kind of service that's on their website, one kind of case type or client type that's on their website, that it's on their website, they do it, they put it on their website, who knows why, but they don't want to advertise for those kind of cases. Well, it's hard to convey that to the Performance Max campaign that and a lot of times looks at the overall website, and then we'll try to get you leads based on everything on the website. I'd much rather have the ability to say, hey, keep doing that. I want to roll with the system. I want you to be able to look at the whole website. But these two service types, they're on the website, but it's hard to explain to the machine that they added those 7 years ago. They don't do them anymore, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
This is a kind of beautiful way to say, hey, don't want that.
Yeah. There's one thing that has always bugged me. I mean, the great thing about Performance Max, and to be clear, I'm with you. This is not revolutionary for search. This is not revolutionary for shopping. The shared negative keyword lists accomplish those just fine. It's not a big deal. But what is a big deal is the fact that I can do the one thing that I couldn't reliably see on screen. I could not get a confirmation, because you could supposedly contact Google and tell them, hey, add these negative keywords to this Performance Max, and they would supposedly do it. You could not get visual confirmation. But now when you set these negative keywords in your account as a negative keyword at the account level, on screen it says you've created 3 negative keywords, 10 negative keywords, 1 negative keyword. And that, the fact that I can tell it, don't show for this, don't show up whenever, you could even do this with competitors, put a competitor name. Don't show me whenever someone's searching for a competitor name on Performance Max. Don't show me for this particular type of service. Don't show me for my brand name. Exclude my brand name entirely.
Don't show me with the word free, with the word, if you don't want the word price or whatever. You can pick your funnel, yeah.
This is the biggest issue I had is not that Google will go out with Performance Max and reach everything it can possibly reach. I just want to be able to tell it, okay, you can do that, but just don't go here. That's all. I want to be able to exclude certain things. And the fact that it's up to 1,000, the fact that it's not only 5, the fact that it's not 500, it's 1,000. There's a ton of data that I have in my search campaigns that I could, if I wanted to, dump 600, 800 negative keywords into this thing and see what happens. What happens to a Performance Max when you add 800 negatives? Does it make a big difference? Does it slow things down? That could, tell us a little bit about how the system runs. Does it affect display? Does it affect, the remarketing aspects of Performance Max? It's really interesting. So this whole tool, will tell us a lot about the inner workings of the Performance Max campaign, which is what everybody wants to know.
Yeah, and I think it is a nice check on your account. Like I mentioned earlier, like if I have a negative keyword I want on all search campaigns, I'll just always do a list. But if there's a negative keyword, you're always going to want to block, always. Yeah. Like it is a nice little way to protect yourself against forgetting to put a negative keyword list on a new campaign in the future. So I also like the fact that they cap you at 1,000, because it's like, this is a very powerful thing to do, to block to add a negative keyword at the account level that for all times on all campaigns that are created will be in effect. So you don't want that list getting too long. You want to be able to sort through that list and know what you did there. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very cool thing that we have this option here. And that's a good move by you, Chris, going to all campaigns and then account settings, and just every now and then checking in on that account settings page and seeing what our options are these days.
There's a lot of unique stuff in that tab. And just to be clear, we now have, let's list them all. We have account level negative keywords. We have shared negative keyword lists. We have campaign negatives, and we have ad group negatives. You now have 4 different places that you can add negative keywords to. I mean, it's pretty extensive. We used to just have one place, and now we have 4 different places that apply in different ways. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Chris. Well, that brings us to the close of today's episode. New features in Google Ads.
Okay.
And
the opening of new features. No, we're not going to do that.
No, we were going to talk about a little something else, but I feel like we should keep this focused.
Okay, I like it.
We should focus on the product.
I like it.
Not the person,
Not the person.
We're just the vessel to deliver this wonderful information.
I'm a trumpet.
Yeah. The elephant trunk.
Yes. Born that way.
That's all you got? You don't want to keep going?
No.
The microphone to the world.
Well, microphones don't actually make okay.
Oh, really? Okay, go ahead. Tell us how they work, please.
The PA system.
Tell us how that microphone in front of you works.
Well, you plug it in, and there it is.
All right, Chris, where can people reach you?
I can be reached at chrisschaefer.com. And even if you don't want to reach out to me, you want to see a great website? You want to see someone who just has built a phenomenal website? One of the greatest, some people have said the greatest website in the world, chrisschaefer.com. check it out.
Thanks, Chris. I'm at rothmanppc.com. And everyone, thanks for listening to the show, sharing it with friends, and also subscribing to us on YouTube. And we will see you next week.